Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From my work on the Intelligence Committee over the last 10 years and now as chairman, I can tell you this issue is a critical concern to me. Our national labs are where we develop some of the scientific research and capabilities that are the envy of the world, but they lack security measures. And I can say that it's not just me, it's many other members of the Intelligence Committee. 5 members are on this committee. There's a reason why we passed legislation last year unanimously that would have stopped scientists from China and Russia, and even Iran and North Korea and Cuba from being in our labs. Mr. DeBar, do you know how many Chinese and Russian scientists were in our labs in the last fiscal year for which we have data?
Yeah, if I've seen your past testimony, I think the number's around 8,000.
8,000? Out of a total of how many, do you know?
Well, total lab employees are probably...
No, a total foreign visitors.
Oh, I'm not certain about that.
40,000. So 1 out of every 5 foreign scientists in an American national lab is Chinese or Russian. Do you know how many American scientists get to go to equivalent sites in China and Russia? I do. Do you know, Mr.?
I think it's less.
If I put the over-under at 0.5, would you bet the over or the under?
Maybe even under.
Ms. Puglisi, how many American scientists get to go to Russia, the equivalent sites in Russia and China?
Right, Senator, I currently don't have that number. However, I think that's a point that I've made before this committee and others, is that it's that reciprocity. I mean, true collaboration comes from transparency, reciprocity, and that's one of the things that we are not.
I couldn't agree more. Ms. Richmond, do you think 1 out of every 5 foreign scientists at a Chinese or Russian equivalent site is American?
I don't know those numbers, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's zero reciprocity on this issue. Why would we allow Chinese and Russian scientists into our national labs, to say nothing of Iranians and Cubans and North Koreans, when they don't allow our scientists there? That we've told the directors of these labs for a long time in the Intelligence Committee that if they do not get a hold of this problem, then the Congress will solve it for them. And the legislation that we introduced and passed with the Intelligence Committee last year, although it didn't get passed in law, will be brought back up this year. And I'm going to champion that on this committee and on the Intelligence Committee, because we have to put an end to this threat. There's a lot of great people working in the Department of Energy, to include at our labs and at the Office of Intelligence and Counterintelligence, one of the very best of our small intelligence offices around the government. But there are too many people who have this open science mindset, this naive ideological commitment that we have to allow these foreign adversary scientists into our labs no matter what the risk. Mr. Barr, who has the final word on allowing such a foreign visitor to visit his or her lab?
So the order is flexible on who has the authority. Previously, when we instituted it, when I was undersecretary, it was required to be up at my level, and we were able to squash a lot of the 1,000 Talents programs. We found many people working for China, including on joint nuclear weapons work. That's a pretty stunning comment I just gave that we found at one of the labs. I believe I was told in my conversations with DOE recently is that a lot of that's been delegated down to the individual lab level, and I'm not exactly certain.
And again, we have great people working in our individual labs, but by and large, the directors of these places tend to come from a scientific background. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
They're not coming from the intelligence community. They're not coming from law enforcement. If a foreign national is excluded from one lab, is he therefore excluded from every other lab?
I'm not certain how it's currently being executed.
I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
If one foreign lab director, or if one of our lab directors says, no, this guy from Russia is too dangerous a risk and can't be here, he can just turn around and try to go to one of the other labs as well. Is it fair to say that sometimes there's a little bit of competition between these labs for money or prestige or talent?
Senator, during one of my many times of uncovering things with intelligence, counterintelligence at the labs, we found a Chinese national who had been hired to one of the DOE labs, and then they used that to shift to NIST in Colorado and use the impromptu of having been hired at a DOE national lab to join a very important quantum effort at NIST. And as soon as we found that out, we had to reach out to Commerce very quickly and point out that we were sorry that this person had gotten that role, and basically we allowed them to end up at another lab.
Thank you. I just want to thank the chairman for having this hearing. This is not something that we discuss much in a public setting. We've examined it very closely for years on the Intelligence Committee, but it is a grave national security threat. It's a threat to our prosperity as well, because so much of these technologies end up getting commercialized. And to be clear, what we're talking about here, again, is foreign nationals. There's been a lot of testimony or a lot of statements from members and the witnesses about the history throughout American life of foreign-born naturalized scientists. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about someone who's raised their hand and taken the oath of affirmation to become a citizen or even a legal permanent resident. We're talking about foreign nationals coming to our lab. This is a grave threat, and we can't allow it to continue.
Thank you.